When I left the hospital, I was shocked that something like this could happen to someone like me. I don't know how else to put it. I had never heard of SCAD. I was 47 at the time, healthy, active, treated my body very well, and to be honest, felt very let down by my body. It was shocking. I had been helping someone with a rental house that they were cleaning, nothing super strenuous, but that evening started experiencing what I would describe as very out of the blue significant chest pain, and chest pain that didn't subside, and to the extent, and I'm grateful for it now, but to the extent that it couldn't be ignored, because I think a lot of times we do tend to ignore aches and pains and kind of brush them aside, and it was severe enough that it couldn't be ignored. And so ultimately, the friend that I was with drove me to urgent care. I walked in, presented my insurance card, described symptoms, and they did get me back right away. What's shocking in hindsight to me is that they did hook up and do an EKG on me, which looked completely normal. So the assumption then was that there was some kind of acid reflux issue. So they gave me Malox, and I've been told that I was having a conversation with the nurse following taking that, and then I fell forward off the exam table to the floor, and initially it seemed that I was having a seizure, and then completely coded on them and went still. So mine was did result in a full cardiac arrest, and so the urgent care staff, of course, immediately started performing CPR and called EMS, and then they arrived and defibrillated, and I was transported to the nearest medical facility, hospital. And at that point, it's my understanding that even though they had started the heart again, I didn't really regain consciousness in the way that they would have hoped, that I was alive, but not seeming to be with it, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. So of course they took me to the cath lab. Of course I have no memory of that. And that's where they found the dissection and repaired it with a stent. And because of the cardiac arrest, they put me in therapeutic hypothermia, or what's called code chill. So I was in a therapeutic hypothermic coma for a few days because, of course, they suspected that there could be brain and organ damage from the lack of oxygen, even though it was hopefully brief. So from that Saturday night chest pain to the following Wednesday morning, that Wednesday morning is my next memory after the chest pain on Saturday night. So my memory is waking up and I just have a memory of looking at this clock in front of me on a wall in a hospital room with no idea why I was there, how I had gotten there. And then I looked over, and my ex-husband had brought my boys were walking into the hospital room. So I lost this chunk of time, and processing that was very difficult psychologically. To be told that all of these horrific, catastrophic, really almost life-ending things had happened to me. Someone who has always tried to take really good care of myself, no risk factors for heart disease. And so, that's a summary of my SCAD story. The EKG did not show anything that flagged as a heart event, a cardiac event. And I asked my cardiologist, because I just said, how could a person walk into an urgent care clearly having a heart attack? I mean, there's no question now that is what was happening, and it not show up on an EKG. And he, as with his expertise, said that he was not surprised, that that's not necessarily unusual. Because kind of, in my case, the artery that dissected is the circumflex, which I guess is behind, kind of on the back, and so the EKG didn't detect it. Anyone who's experiencing severe chest pain, or significant, even moderate, or chest pain that's not subsiding, go straight to a hospital, go to an emergency room. Do not just just drive to an urgent care. And the urgent care staff saved my life, so I am grateful and I will always be grateful. What I think would have played out differently is that in an emergency room, they would have definitely done a blood draw and they would have checked troponin levels, and that would have detected a cardiac event that didn't show up on the EKG. So that would definitely be advice. Don't ignore the pain, and make sure, even if you think, oh my gosh, I'll be so embarrassed if, going and if it's nothing. No, you can't take that chance. And I would say go directly to a trauma center where you can have those those tests that will do a better job of honing in on if it is in fact a cardiac event. I do think that I did suffer from mild depression because I just remember there was a period of time where I felt very fearful and apprehensive and just unsure about what the future would be like for me. I did go back to work half-time it was only about 5 weeks out. I think it probably was mentally a good thing for me, but I think everybody has a different path with that. Part of my story includes, learning that I had had a SCAD and not knowing what it was, and coming home like most of us would, I think, and researching, what is this? What is SCAD? And by doing that, I was able to find the SCAD survivors group and find out about the SCAD 5K that's held every year in Naperville. And so I came to that, and I wasn't even a year out from my event at the time. And one thing that I think any survivor will tell you is that when this happens, you feel very let down by your body, especially if you're a person who's tried very hard to take good care of it. So I felt very betrayed by my body, and it took time and a lot of mental work to try to trust it again. So one thing that I did to try to get myself there was I was determined to try to train for and actually run the entire 5K as a survivor. I wasn't putting pressure on myself about it. I knew, don't be stupid. If you need to stop and walk, that's fine. But I really needed to trust my body again. And so I came out, I'm about 8 hours away from the race location, drove out by myself, had never in person met a survivor, definitely had interacted online with some. So it was a very, very meaningful experience to come and meet other survivors and their families and to share stories, and then to have that experience of being able to start to trust my body again. So crossing that finish line, it tears me up just to remember, because, it was 10 months out from surviving a full cardiac arrest due to SCAD, and so that was an emotional finish. There's no other way to put it. There's a lot of emotion attached to it. I think what was captured by that video, and I'm really thankful that still image and video exist, because it was a really meaningful moment for me, because I think anyone will tell you that the psychological recovery from SCAD is as much or more difficult than the physical recovery, and I know that varies from person to person. Fortunately, my heart function is pretty much normal, and I didn't really lose heart function in my event, and I'm very, very grateful and thankful, because that's not the case for all SCAD survivors. But just, I don't know how else to put it, but just just your body letting you down in such a big way, it can really mess with your mind a lot. It can really make you fearful. It definitely, makes you fearful that it will happen again and that the outcome could be worse. It makes you fearful too. I remember waking up in the hospital when I was really aware of what had happened, and all I could think of is, am I going to be able to be a mom to my boys again? Am I going to be me again? Because there's this whole after the event process of kind of grieving the event and trying to figure out who you are now, because it's not the same, and it will never be the same. And it doesn't mean you can't go back to living a completely active, fulfilling life, but after it happens, boy, you don't see that. You don't see it. And that's why I think, the events that are organized for survivors to get together are so important. Because being able to connect with someone and see that they're healthy and they're strong and they're a few years out, it gives you hope. It gives you confidence. I think, I'm not quite 3 years out from my SCAD, and I remember leaving the hospital completely misunderstanding even what a dissection was. It was just listed on my discharge papers as a dissection, and today when I was doing the race, I met a young lady that just had her SCAD in 2018, so about 2 years after mine. And we were exchanging stories, of course, and I was really, really happy to hear that she was able to leave the hospital with information about what SCAD is. So within just those few years, I feel hopeful and I'm thankful that hopefully patients are getting a little bit more information from their providers before they leave, because I had to do all of that digging on my own, and fortunately I was able to get information, but that just kind of adds another burden to the plate of the patient when they are not leaving with a lot of answers or information about what has happened to them. So I was really encouraged to know that may be changing a little bit for patients.